Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shop Breakdown. As you can see, I'm not at the usual location at a hotel right now, but we're still going to do these videos this weekend, and we're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Saturday, November 12th, 2022. If you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Helps us out a ton. And don't forget to put your college basketball plays in the comments section below. If you're looking for my best bets, you of course can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are Saturday's games in college hoops. First up, we're going to see Georgia Tech taking on Georgia State. Georgia Tech is laying 5 points in this one, totals at 140. Now, these two teams played last season. It was an overtime game, actually, a 72-62 overtime victory for Georgia Tech. Actually, Georgia State had a nice lead in that game. They blew it down the stretch, and they didn't even cover the spread. They were getting a few points in that game. I remember it like it was yesterday because I actually had a personal play on Georgia State in that one. So it was a tough loss and tough non-cover in that game for Georgia State. But last season, pretty much a successful year for the Georgia State Panthers, 18-11 overall. They started out the season slow, especially in conference play. They were 0-4 to start the year in conference play, but they managed to go on a big run at the end, and at the right time, they went on a big winning streak in the regular season, won the conference tournament in the Sun Belt, and then made it to the NCAA tournament, losing to Gonzaga 93-72. They actually gave Gonzaga a pretty good game in that one, covered the number pretty easily, but Georgia State this season loses a lot of production from last year's team. We saw them play their first game against Coastal Georgia, a subdivision school. Doesn't really tell us much, but it was only a 17-point win. That does concern me. They only scored 76 points in that ball game. I don't really love this Georgia State offense going into this season. I do think it's going to struggle quite a bit. The defense should be fine overall. Usually Georgia State does put together a pretty solid defensive unit. Now, Georgia Tech on the other side, not really a team that I'm looking for in the ACC this season either, a team that they also played a subdivision school in their first game. So, again, doesn't really tell us too much about this year's team, but I do think there's going to be one of the weaker teams in the ACC in the regular season. I do think, you look at last year's game, a 72-62 final score in overtime, so a pretty low-scoring game, and it still went to overtime, an extra 5 minutes of ball game. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game again, and we see a pretty high total at 140. I just don't think Georgia State's going to contribute into the scoring here. I lean towards Georgia Tech laying the points, but I think the better play for me is on the under, so that's where I'm leaning for this one. Next up, we see Grand Canyon taking on Nevada. Nevada's laying 1.5 points in this one, totals at 140. Now, I thought this was one of the better games on the board, so it's one that I wanted to cover on the video, but not necessarily one that I'm loving, not necessarily one that I'm rushing to the window for in terms of betting, as I do think this is going to be a pretty close game. Now, personally, I am leading towards the home team here, laying the 1.5 points. I do think Nevada, there was a lot of question marks for this team going into the season, but a lot of those question marks started to get answered a little bit. I know you don't want to overreact to just one game, especially against a team like Utah Tech, who's outside the top 250 in KenPom, but still, it was a Division I win for Nevada. They won by double digits. They scored 84 points, and really this offense was a big question mark going into the year because they had to replace so many points per game and a lot of production from their number one player in Grant Sherfield, who moved on to Oklahoma. That's where he transferred to. So a lot of production to replace, but they were able to do so in Game 1. Their offense looked strong, even without the three-point shot. They only made 6 of 20 attempts from the perimeter and still put up 84 points. Pretty impressive in my opinion. They are the more rested team here at home. Should be a fantastic game, but I'm going to lean towards the Wolfpack here, laying the 1.5 points. Maybe take the money line so you don't have to have the points in the equation, but give me Nevada in this one. Next up, we see Ball State taking on Indiana State. Indiana State, the Sycamores, laying 9 points in this one. Totals at 148, so a pretty steep total in this game. I think it's for good reason. I like the over in this one. You look at Ball State, they played Earlham in their first game. Doesn't really tell us much. That's a Division III school. Now, Ball State did put up 109 points, a lot of offense there. And the big thing for me is when you look at Ball State, shooting only 4 of 17 from 3 in that game. They were 23.5%, and they still scored 109 points. This was an offense that was pretty much reliant on the three-point ball last season. They were ranked inside the top 100, ranked 63rd in three-point percentage as a team, and this is a team that loves to shoot a lot of three-pointers. Now, they do lose a few players from last year's roster, so it may be a little bit of a different game plan this year offensively, but still, I expect Ball State to really rely on the three-point shot against most Division I schools this year, especially in non-conference play. And Indiana State, although they did a pretty good job defending the perimeter in Game 1 of their season, that was against Green Bay. This is one of the worst shooting teams really in the country going into the year. You look at last year, Green Bay was ranked 355th in three-point shooting as a team, so I'm not necessarily impressed with that great defensive performance. And when you look at Indiana State last season against three-point shooting, they were ranked 306th in the nation in 3-point defense. I think Ball State's going to be able to score some points in this one, but I do not trust this Ball State defense at all. So yes, the points may be tempting with Ball State, but with that bad of a defense, I just can't get there with them. So give me the over. Next up, we see New Mexico State taking on UTEP. The Miners laying 2 points in this one, totals at 131.5. Now, UTEP took on Texas in their first game of the year. They covered the number pretty easily in that game, getting 21.5, and they lost to 72-57 against a 12th ranked team on the road. Pretty impressive stuff for a UTEP team that's going to have to replace quite a bit. Their number one scorer gone this season, and this necessarily wasn't a great offense last year for UTEP, ranked outside the top 200 in adjusted offensive efficiency, but a really good defensive team that UTEP has, and it looked good in their first game, going up against a Power 5 ranked team like Texas and only giving up 72 points on the road. I like what I see there. And when you look at New Mexico State on the other side, this is a team that still has a lot of question marks going into the year because they have to replace a lot of production from last year's tournament team, a team that not only went to the big dance, but actually pulled off a big-time upset over UConn in the first round. So, the team has to replace a lot of scoring, a lot of defense, and now you're on the road against UTEP. And this is a revenge spot for UTEP, who lost to New Mexico State by only 3 points last season in that game. These two teams meet pretty often, and that was a 77-71 final score. So UTEP playing with legitimate revenge in this game, and I think they're the better team defensively. Give me UTEP here, laying the points at home. And the final game for Saturday's card, we're going to talk about Evansville and St. Louis. St. Louis laying 24 points in this one, totals at 141. I like St. Louis laying the points in this game. I know it's a lot of lumber to lay, but St. Louis's first game of the season, taking on Murray State, a 91-68 victory. And I know Murray State's basically an entirely different program with a new coach and a lot of new players, but still, I thought Murray State did a good job in the offseason bringing in some talent, and St. Louis took care of them easily. Evansville, not really a team I'm big on going into the season. Yes, they pulled off the upset victory over Miami, Ohio in Game 1, but I don't trust this offense enough to get the job done on the road against I'm really big on this St. Louis team this season. I think they're going to make a lot of noise in the A-10 this year, and I think this is going to be a classic blowout victory for the Billikens. I see them winning this game by 30+, so I'm laying the points here with St. Louis to end the night. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday, November 12th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and don't forget to put your picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.